This is what we've all been waiting for, the final of the Party Poker Premier League Poker 5. Welcome to Premier League Poker 5 from Montesino in Vienna. We started with 16 of the world's greatest players. They faced off in our league format in a bid to accumulate points and make it through to this final table. Now 8 players take their seats for a chance to win the $500,000 top prize and a championship title.
The quest to be Premier League champion began with 16 players.
The cards are going to be flying off the table soon.
They're going to go nuts when they see this.
That's the way to do it.
I had the G on the ropes there, and you've just told them you had the nuts.
It's driving me crazy.
I got to deal with the stare down just to steal a freaking blind.
Ace King, you're good, you're good. You've got the best hand, whatever happens.
Oh, God, come on.
I mean, what the hell?
I'm not getting any respect.
You are the best, OG.
It's bike time.
Just is killing me.
Come on, let's see the river.
Wow.
I'm not going to listen to Tony anyway. He clearly has no idea what he's doing.
That's pretty cool.
Come on, let's go! Oh, sweat. Everyone's a winner.
6 didn't make it through the league stages. Eugene Kanchelov, Eric Seidel, and Luke Schwartz bit the dust in Group A. And in Group B, Vanessa Selps, Elke, and Ben Wilanowski were eliminated. 4th and 5th in the league played heads up last time out. First up, Phil Laak and Andy Frankenberger.
So sick. Sorry, buddy. That was sick.
Big laydown.
Come on, it's only 5 more. You got $1 million. You're out chipping and everything. Just put it in.
Without all the acting, I actually probably would have snap called you.
Well, it's all in and called, and goodbye, Frankenberger.
He hit all the cards. He's going to the Premier League Poker 5 final. Then Yevgeny Timoshenko and Tom Dwan faced off for the last seat in the final.
Where's the Tom Dwan call on that spot?
Obviously dead wrong.
This says I'm folding.
I like my chances.
We're allowed to sweat it?
Tom Dwan came back from 20,000 to take this heads-up battle.
Tom Dwan is in the form of his life. Now we have our final 8 ready for the biggest battle in poker. It all comes down to just one final game as the players gather at the Montesino. It seems friendly as they wait to start and draw their seats. But with $500,000 on the line, it's sure to get serious real soon. I am so thrilled to be joined by Poker Hall of Famer Mike Sexton for what I feel is undoubtedly the most elite final table of 8 ever assembled for this Premier League Poker 5 final.
Well, no question about it. Extraordinary talent at this table. The Premier League brings out some of the greatest poker talent in the world, no doubt about it, and I am really excited to see what happens here tonight.
Of course, we started with 16 players, whittled down to 8 who will convert their league points into chips, 10,000 per point. And so the chip leaders right now, Matt, Frankland, and Jungleman at this table.
Well, all these guys have won millions playing poker. Obviously, they're phenomenal players. I fancy Sam Trickett. He could do it. Patrik Antonius could do it. Scott Seiver. Really, all these guys capable of winning.
Yeah, you can pick your name. I've been so impressed with Tom Dwan. Unfortunately, he is a bit short-stacked. We'll see what anyone can do. And let's have a look at how much money these guys are playing for. There is $1.4 million dished out at this final, and the first payout is $55K, then $65K for 7. 6th place is awarded $80K. 5th place gets $100,000. 4th, $125K, and 3rd, $175K. The runner-up will receive $300,000, and the Premier League champion will be awarded $500,000.
It's time to get the Premier League final table underway, so let's meet your players. In seat number 1, it's Patrik Antonius. Patrik plays the highest limit cash games, and whether live or online, fans flock to see him win. He's one of the most famous faces in this game, and for good reason. In seat number 2, it's British player Mathew Frankland. Matt came to the Premier League through the global qualifiers, but his excellent play and strong understanding of this format have landed him here as the chip leader. It's impossible to not have an opinion about the player in seat number 3. He's one of the biggest smack talkers in the game. He has a 3rd and a 2nd place finish in this format already. It's Tony G. In seat number 4, it's one of the UK's hottest talents and one of the best no-limit hold'em players in the world. Sam Trickett is also the 2011 Partouche Poker Tour main event champion. In seat number 5, it's Daniel Jungleman Cates. He regularly crushes the highest limit games and is one of online poker's biggest successes. He's transitioning to live poker and looking to add a title to his accolades. In seat number 6, it's Durrr Dwan. It seems like for years the poker world has been calling him the top young gun, and he shows no sign of slowing down. He joins us from the cash tables in Macau. In seat number 7 is Phil Laak. He's a poker player and a philosopher. He has theories on everything from time travel to the existential nature of potatoes, but he also has a World Series of Poker bracelet and a World Open Championship.
Forward but not backward.
And in seat number 8, it's one of the most likable players in the game, Scott Seiver. He will modestly brush off any praise to his poker, but don't be fooled. He also has a WPT championship and a World Series of Poker bracelet behind him. And getting all of the action started, let's go over to your commentators, Jesse May and Mike Sexton.
You always have to go for the third. I believe the third. You don't have, yeah, to check for a heater. You don't always have to play the second.
You look at the seat draw, players very interested in the seat draw today, and Scott Seiver seemed to be the most excited.
These new kids, new style.
Of course, with the groups A and group B's combining here, Mike, we've got, you know, half the table who have played together pretty much throughout this Premier League, and the other half haven't met. There will be so many interesting dynamics. Everybody's got a jack, it seems.
Patrik calling also. Sam Trickett getting in the picture too. So look at this. We've got 4-way action here. Flop comes 10. King 10-7 with 2 clubs. Flop does only hit Trickett with bottom pair. The 2 players have the gut shot straight draw, of course.
That's true. Tom Dwan will be loving this, though. It's the double straight draw and the flush draw and the gut shot straight flush draw. I mean, this Mike, is a hand you might be willing to go all the way with, even at this early stage.
No question about it. You flop a straight flush draw, a 2-way straight draw.
7, raise, 40.
Now look at Phil Laak, going to raise it up with just a gut shot straight draw. He couldn't be in much worse shape here, and as the cards lie.
And he's made a big enough raise here, up to 40,000, that if Tom Dwan was to go all in, Mike, it would put the right kind of pressure on the hand, number 1, and number 2, it's a reasonable bet. On the other hand, if Dwan thinks he's up against a set, does he want to take on that equity?
Dwan will be going nowhere with this hand, I promise you. Just a matter if he calls or re-raises.
Boy, look at those percentages. If the money does go in now, Phil Laak drawing dead to anything but a chop.
Phil Laak will not put his money in if this pot gets re-raised. I believe he'll just go out. I'm talking about an all-in re-raise.
Laak, of course, coming from Group A playoffs. Tom Dwan coming from Group B. This is the first time they've met here in the Premier League. And
well, Dwan is not going to fold this hand. It's just a matter if he's going to call, if he's going to raise, and how much he's going to re-raise. You're just not going to throw this hand away. I don't care what your opponent has. You have too big of a hand, a 2-way straight draw and a flush draw.
Well, those are the chips. Those are the chips for the call, but the verbal all-in is what plays. Phil Laak immediately under pressure for his entire stack.
I didn't.
You know, Phil Laak is not going to call
I didn't
here.
Flat and just like.
He's an old school poker player, not going to go out on a draw.
I tested it. It's such a good hand too. So sick. I just wanted him to fold.
And Mike, incredible about Phil Laak.
Ask Jesse if we can see if I would have got there.
He tries to give off the impression that he plays tight,
Ask Jesse if,
but raising on a draw the very first hand, he's hoping the players think he's tight, and Dwan didn't fall for it.
Just show it, burn it, and you don't have to turn it up. You can just put it on the desk, on the disc.
Kill this hand. Instead. Here, just burn.
Matt, can they put a card over there or no?
Just put it on this
Nope, they're
sheet
not
so
gonna.
they can see.
Yeah, put it on the sheet. That way we don't see. The viewers can see.
Slide it here. Slide it
Yeah,
here.
just flip it. I don't care. I was the one in the hand. I don't care.
Pardon me?
Just flip it. We were the ones in the hand.
What if I get there?
I mean, they had the same hand. It was going to be a split pot unless a club came up.
3 clubs.
If he'd have put his money in.
He has queen jack.
Well, Dwan's smiling at those 2 cards because he doesn't think there's any way he could have won that pot with a jack high. Well, Phil Laak sort of out in the
You know what? You showed hard
stratosphere right now, trying to figure out what was I doing here? What did I do there?
Commitment doesn't pay the rent, kid. I gotta pay the rent. You guys are all multi-millionaires for trust funds, you know?
It looks so real too.
One thing I love about Phil Laak, Mike, and everybody does, he's such a big personality. Even among these players, he can dominate the table.
Over here teaches you all a lesson.
With his table talk, with his banter, with his jokes.
So true. He's the oldest player at the table, of course, and, you know, been around a fair amount, but as you said, he can hang with the young guns pretty good.
Phil Laak is the oldest player at this table, and Daniel Jungleman Cates, on the other hand, just having turned 22, on the other end of the spectrum.
Scott Seiver throwing away an ace-jack there, and look at this.
Call.
Well, Matt Frankland got a hand to call with, too, the queen-jack.
Oh, boy.
Look at this, another 4-way action pot. So far, we haven't even got to Trickett.
Come on, baby, let's get on.
Well, Tom Dwan's limped in here under the gun. It's been called by everybody except for Tony G and Scott Seiver, who had one of the best hands.
Well, this is incredible. Seiver folded the ace-jack, remember, and everybody else has come in this pot.
You know it's on you.
It is on Tom Dwan right now.
Well, Dwan has king-8 of hearts here.
Action is on seat number.
Oh my gosh, is he gonna go? Is he gonna go for a 3-bet here? The limp re-raise. He's got no hand, but how strong a move is this, Mike Sexton?
Well, it's incredible to me. He is just trying to mop up the floor right now with these guys. He has raised it to 43,000. It's 36,000 more to go for everybody.
And like the squeeze plays, usually you get the first one to fold. Everyone else follows suit. But who counted on Antonius? He's got the iron stare. He's got a lot more chips than Tom Dwan. And yet, with the 2 10s, if you put a re-raise in, you only get action if you're in really bad shape. Isn't that true?
Correct. You could be dominated. Your opponent had jacks or queens, and you know he's going with you if he's got ace-king.
Obviously, if Antonius could see the cards, he would just stick his stack in immediately. What we've seen time and time again, Mike, is that, and he's going all in. The best poker players in the world have a sixth sense. It's like ESP, and Antonius willing to put his entire tournament on the line based on those instincts.
Well, Patrik Antonius, one of the great high-stakes poker players in the world, and you see why, folks, right there, the way that hand was played.
I played with Tom Dwan a lot. We played all over the world, televised cash games and non-televised, and some online poker as well. And he's a very tricky player. He can play his hands in many different ways, and that's the biggest challenge to play against him. I came to play good poker. I'm gonna try to give myself a chance to win. I gotta prove that I belong here, I guess. Yeah, of course it would be nice to win the Premier Poker League 5. It would feel very good for sure.
We'll be back after the break as the Party Poker Premier League Poker 5 final continues here in Vienna. Welcome back to Premier League Poker 5. Tonight, 8 players are battling it out for the $500,000 first prize and one of the most prestigious titles in the game.
Probably something really
That's the real separation, Mike. We know all these players are world class. We know they're all the best in the world, but still, there is that other level that the real elite they rise to when they're asked the question.
Well, no question about it. The best of the best are the guys that can pull the trigger when the pressure's on without a hand. I mean, that's what really separates the best from the rest when you're talking about top-tier poker players. And we got guys here at this table that can do that, Jesse.
We do, and we have some of the top stuffed animals in the world as well here.
Well, not only the stuffed animals, you got more animals out. Tony G setting them all out on the table right there. And here's Sam Trickett's coming in with King, Queen of Diamonds. Tony G made a raise here with the ace-4 offsuit, and Sam Trickett looking him up. And an ace comes right on the flop. Comes ace-10-8. Now Sam Trickett does have a straight draw. A jack would give him a straight. Obviously 2 diamonds would give him the nut flush.
Mike, there have been some very funny dynamics between Sam Trickett and Tony G throughout this Premier League. Sam, he loves to try and wind Tony G up, try and get him steamed, but he said several times in every heat, Tony G's been so steamed up already, I've been scared to say anything to him. He might just punch me.
Oh, look at this. A diamonds come on the turn. Now here's a spot where if Tony G bets, Sam Trickett could raise him. But Tony G is smart enough to know that. He's checked the 2 aces. I think his plan is just to check and call here. The question is, will Trickett bet? He's got the nut flush draw and a straight draw.
Will he bet, and will he bet twice if he misses, Mike? Even though Tony G's got the best hand, it's really hard to take 2 streets of pressure with an ace and no kicker.
Well, Sam Trickett has bet here. And now what's Tony going to do? He's got 2 aces, but a very weak kicker. You know Sam called the raise pre-flop. He called the bet on the flop. Any ace beats him. Tough spot for Tony G right here. Because he has to face another bet on the river. That's what really makes it tough.
You know, Mike, Tony G always talks about having heart and commitment. He really will have to have both in spades if he wants to see a showdown, and that's what he's thinking about.
He really wanted to make it to this final. He's done it, and he really wants to win this tournament. He wants to validate himself as a top player. I mean, a lot of the top players don't rate him up there, even though he might at times. And there he's going to lay down the 2 aces. So Sam Trickett's aggressiveness on the turn by betting wins him that pot. Many players would have just checked there to get the free card off. Not Sam Trickett. This is a world-class player, folks. I mean, really, to have an opportunity to watch the skill of all these players at this table, if you love poker at all or like it at all, you've got to love this table and watching these guys play. They are phenomenal.
You know, Mike, you're so right about Sam Trickett, and sometimes among the public, he doesn't get the credit he deserves these days because his background was so sudden. For a couple years, he was a mid-stakes grinder. He kind of toiled in anonymity with the other UK players, but his rise has been sudden, and if you talk to the best, they say, oh my gosh, Sam Trickett, yeah, he's one of the best players in the world.
Yeah, or guys like me.
Absolutely.
Well, Patrick's got the 2 ducks. He raised it up to 5,000.
And even though, here comes Franklin, even though, Mike, Franklin clearly doesn't have the resume of any of these players, he has definitely got the moves. Look at that, Tony G, ace-queen on the button like it's nothing.
It was bet and raised in front of him, and that's why he mucked the ace-queen there. Had Matt Franklin just called with a 7-5 of clubs, I'm guessing Tony G would have 3-bet himself and probably won the pot before the flop.
Wait, if he bets you raise,
As it is, Matt Frankland has 3-bet with a 7-5 here.
One call.
But Patrik going to look at a flop, and my guess is if Patrik does not catch a deuce on the flop, that this pot is going to go to Frankland because he's going to bet at it.
It's actually just a single-edged sword. There's only
Well, Frankland now has the best hand as it comes Jack 9-7.
That's a one-edged sword.
Just don't bet. But the other side is.
And the decision for Frankland. Do you bet here, Mike? Just trying to show that if you do re-raise, you will bet, or do you say, if I get called here, I'm definitely beat, so I might check back?
Well, I think you have to bet here in case your opponent's got ace-queen or an underpair like he has.
One fold.
So a nice play there by Matt Frankland to pick up that pot. And we saw the aggressiveness this kid had coming up through the heats. I was impressed with that. And he's not backing down from the top players in the world here either. 3-betting him with the 7 high.
My journey so far at the Premier League final has included a 700 satellite online to a 10k, then a 10k satellite to the 125k, and then 4 heats. The final table lineup's a lot tougher than the group stages, but I still think there's some weak spots there. I think that Tony's probably one of the weakest spots at the table, and Phil as well, and then some of the other guys like Patrik have a lot of high stakes cash deep stack experience, but maybe not so much 20, 25 bigs experience. To win this title would be brilliant. Not only the money, which would obviously be life-changing, but the actual title itself. It's one of the most prestigious titles in poker, so this would be brilliant for me to win.
I think everyone has nothing.
First guy out at this final table is going to pick up 55,000. The winner going to get 500,000.
It's so sick. It's really tough to fade the whole table having quads.
That's right, Mike. $2.2 million in the Premier League prize pool, including $200,000 added by the sponsor. And most of that prize money, $1.4 million of it, still to be won at this final table.
Top set, that's no big deal. Top card pair.
And don't forget, these players put up $125,000 of their own money to play in the Premier League.
5. I was. Didn't bet that
Well,
much.
Tony G got king queen. He's got the button this time. This is the one time around that he's got position on Trickett.
Well, Trickett's never going to fold this, not against Tony G, small blind, but he's chosen to play it aggressive and just re-raise, Mike.
Well, that's what these guys do. They re-raise with hands like 9-7, 7-5, 6-5. That's the hands they 3-bet with. We've seen it time and time again here.
He'll have to be careful. He's out of position.
Now, if a king or queen doesn't come on this flop, he's going to win the hand. I promise you that, Sam Trickett will. And that's a good flop for him, as he's got a pair and a gut shot straight draw.
Oh, no. Get on the merry-go-round, G. Don't bet here.
Did he give anything? I'm sure he didn't move.
Well, Trickett has checked here.
Did he actually move? No, like when you asked him the question.
Now, to Tony, that makes it look like he's got an ace high. So Tony thinks the only way he can win this pot is to bet at it. He thinks Trickett's got like ace-jack, something like that, ace-10 suited.
Like a marionette that like tilts the head up and down when needed.
I was thinking, what the hell are these guys doing?
That's what I assume. She's just, you know, the puppet master here. Patrick's puppet master.
Yeah, Sam Trickett must have asked him, do you know I checked? Or something like that. Do you know it's on you?
Believe me, it's a pretty
And
easy job.
he is about, I believe, Mike, unless a king or queen comes, he's about to get himself in a whole load of trouble.
Well, he bet 25,000 and got called. And now an ace comes off.
4 check.
It's not a great bluffing card for Tony G.
No. Tony's fearful that Sam has an ace in his hand and now has 2 aces. And now a 7 comes off. Trickett has made a straight. Now, is he good enough to check right here to lure Tony into possibly bluffing at this pot, which would be the only way Tony could win the pot, but we know that's not going to happen. No.
Yeah, I feel like in Sam's mind, Mike, Tony G would have checked on the turn after hitting the ace quite often, you know, fearful that Trickett's got something big. And the Trickett may be hoping to get paid off by an ace.
Well, Tony trying to figure it out here. And if he makes a play right here, he will be pounding that panda on the head. He does lay the pot down. Lays the hand down. Sam Trickett going to pick up another pot off Tony G. And even the one time at the table that he had position on Trickett, he managed to lose the pot. So
They played the first level. Blinds will go to 2,000 and 4,000. Who's been the story so far, Mike? Has it been Sam Trickett?
I think it has been. Obviously, Patrik Antonius as well. He's moved up the charts, but really not much in it for anybody. Tony G, the only one really going down.
This Premier League match continues after the break. Welcome back to Season 5 of Premier League Poker from the Montesino. The final is playing out, and soon we'll find out who takes down this championship title.
Yeah, and then like sees what the table reaction is when
Blinds will
he's done
hit
to
2,000 and
see how
4,000
scummy they
now.
think he is, and then depending on that, he either angle shoots or just like laughs it off and throws his cards away. So yeah, if he ever does
Frankland telling a story, but I'll bet he's going to get very quiet when he looks down at this hand.
He's going to continue with the hand.
He's found the ace-king.
Well, a premium hand, ace-king of clubs.
A Rabidan or something like that.
He's going to raise it up to 10,000. Tony G got the 2 6s here. See what he's going to do, if he's just going to flat call or 3-bet it here. And he mucks this hand.
Wow, that's surprising. I mean, he still has about 60 bigs.
Oh, how would he know this? Sam Trickett, who's played so many pots, now picks up 2 aces. Well, this could be a massive pot between him and Matt Frankland.
Warren.
Unbelievable.
Mike, they have dynamics, Trickett and Frankland. They have massive dynamics. Trickett has been 3-betting Frankland, not just tonight. He's done it twice tonight. He's also done it so many times during the Premier League. I think they're just going to get the money in. I don't think Frankland can get away here.
Well, in the meantime, Dwan hasn't done anything yet. He may play this pot.
Wide open.
Yeah, oh,
This is unbelievable.
this has to be a cold 4-bet bluff. And actually, if Dwan has any, you almost hope for Dwan's sake that he's got a huge hand.
Well, he just called, and by just calling, I have a feeling Matt Franklin's going to come over the top of both of them for a monster bet right here. Watch what happens, folks.
Now, is there any reason?
Wow.
Wow. Is there any reason for Frankland to call? I guess it's just the nature of this final table, not wanting to get all the money in pre-flop.
I'm in shock. I would have moved in had I been Franklin. I'd have probably been broke right now. He may be able to get away from this hand.
Amazing.
Well, it's come 10-9-4. The kind of hand that Franklin and Dwan will not lose any more money with. Just amazing to me that Franklin, against an aggressive Sam Trickett who 3-bets with so many hands, would not re-raise after Dwan just called there in that spot.
You know, Mike, so many players would have even thinking that there was some weird dynamics going on between Frankland and Trickett would have just folded the 2 8s that Tom Dwan had. Listen, they're no different than the 2 6s that Tony G folded. And now that Trickett's checked the aces, Tom Dwan's got an opportunity to get himself in a load of trouble.
Well, there's one difference between them. Dwan plays those hands and Tony G doesn't.
Yeah, you're right. And Dwan also quite aware of table dynamics, knowing that Frankland could be light, Trickett could be very light. Pair of 8s had a reasonable chance of being the best hand pre-flop. But Mike, as soon as Sam Trickett sticks chips in right now, Dwan's going to realize he's in trouble, isn't he?
Well, Trickett just calls here. And that's got to scare Dwan somewhat. He knows he's got something. And now an ace comes off. 3 aces for Sam Trickett here.
Oh, my gosh.
He is going to check again, folks. He is going to try to let Dwan hang himself. There's no card in the deck Tom Dwan can win this pot with. It's just a matter of how much he's going to lose. Well, whatever he bets is just going over to Trickett's stack.
He only has an all-in bet left. 220 back, 188 in the pot.
6 check.
Well, he checks, and wisely so. And now a 6 comes off.
Enjoy these animals you brought in today.
Tony G would have made 3 6s, but he could never stood the heat to get this far.
This is difficult for Trickett. He has to weigh up. Now, Tom Dwan's a very slick player, Mike. Trickett has to weigh up what possible hands Tom Dwan has, how much he can get paid off, or if Tom Dwan's hand is so weak that actually going for the check raise on the river allowing Tom Dwan to bluff is the best play overall.
Well, I don't think he's going to get any money no matter what he does. If he bets, he's not going to get called. If he checks, it's going to get checked down. That's my prediction.
4-bet.
Well, he does make the bet.
It's a very small bet. I think Sam Trickett agrees with your assessment. The only thing he can get paid off in his mind is a pittance.
And he's bet 45,000 into a pot that now has 230-some thousand in it. Dwan gets away from it. So Sam Trickett taking down that pot. And even though he won that pot, in my mind, he got a little bit unlucky that Matt Frankland did not make a move with the ace-king of clubs there. I mean, Trickett has 3-bet him all the time with no hands, constantly. Dwan just called in that spot. It looks like the perfect time to move all in with ace-king of clubs to me.
Sam Trickett now moves a step closer to taking down this Premier League title.
It's gone fairly well. Just like my worst position was 4th. I was quite fortunate in my first heat to not go out first. But after that, I ran okay, ran good and ran bad, so a mixture of both really. A bit disappointed not to have won a heat. So I'm quite competitive and I like to win things, but yeah, I'm pretty happy to be in the final. So some strong players in there, obviously, but there's always going to be strong players in there because the field was so good. I think it's probably Scott Seiver's one to look out for. I think he's played well, but then again, he's the only player that I have watched because when I was in the commentary, I've only watched one heat and he played really good, so I'll be watching out for him today. I haven't played many tournaments this year, so it'd be nice to get a decent cash under my belt, and obviously it's a really nice one to win.
Unbelievable the discipline that Matt Frankland showed there not to lose those chips.
He was a Houdini, and then a Houdini on the flop. If Tom Dwan had checked behind on the flop, Frankland hits his ace on the turn and then goes broke. I mean.
And Tony G would have made 3 6s.
4-4. 5-4.
Action on Dwan.
He's been very active. His hands have not been turned over in the last 3 hands. He's played every pot. He's called a 3-bet. He's made an all-in re-raise.
Well, Scott Seiver calls with 2 10s.
Wow. This is the first time Scott Seiver's put chips in the pot at this final table, Mike.
Well, Patrik Antonius going to call with the 2 8s. So 3 players in the pot. Oh, and look at this, the dream scenario. 3 players have come into the spot with the raise, and Tony G looks down at 2 aces, and now re-raises the pot up to 36,000.
Go G. Now, Seiver has a big decision here, and against anybody else, Mike, he might be going with this.
Exactly right. He would put other players on making a squeeze play in this spot because he limped in and Patrik limped in. And they know Dwan can raise with anything, but he's going to make the call. He's going to look at a flop, and because he came in the pot, I think Patrick's coming in also. I don't blame him.
And as great as Tony G's hand is right now, Mike, if an 8 or a 10 comes, he's not getting away with. He is not getting away from this hand.
No, he's going to be broke. That's what's going to happen to him. He's going to win the pot if an 8 or 10 doesn't come, but if one of them comes up, and it does not, as it comes Queen 7-5.
He's safe. The G is safe.
The G is safe and going to win a pot here finally. He is not going to check. Well, he's bet 60,000. Only half the size of the pot. Pretty interesting.
It's the crux of a decision for Scott Seiver. Well, obviously, he could beat Ace-King, but that's a very narrow range to put Tony G on right now, Mike.
Well, actually, Scott Seiver and Patrik Antonius are in exactly the same boat. There's one overcard to their pair on the board. Scott Seiver, of course, has to act first, and as you said, tough situation for him.
It wouldn't be like Scott Seiver to be getting his chips in at this stage. And the only reason I say that, Mike, is because we've just come to learn that when there is a tough decision, he just gets it right all the time.
Well, he knows Tony G's the tightest player at the table. He's going to lay it down. And look at this. Patrik doesn't even hesitate. He lays it down as well.
You had a pair? I would have pair. He probably would have run me down.
Only Tony G
obviously.
can be upset about this winning a big pot with the aces.
It's already big for me.
Well, that's the hand right there that Tony G's been waiting on, obviously. And he picks up the pot.
Ace queen?
It's a very good hand.
I got the under.
6 fold. 7 fold. 8 fold.
I bet half the pot.
1 fold.
I get half the pot? How do
I bet half the pot. I mean, I gave it
Oh, look at this. Two aces by Matt Frankland here. When he's just hoping to get some action here from Trickett man, and he just gets out.
And that's very unlucky for Frankland in my mind, Mike. He looks very active. None of the players have been, you know, he hasn't been turning over any hands. We know he's had some big ones, but that's unfair.
Well, Tony G just picked up about 90,000 with two aces a second ago. And Matt Frankland picked up the blinds on Annie's, and you see the disgusted look in his face. It is painful. Guys are raising and three-betting every single pot, three-way action, four-way action. All of a sudden, you pick up aces and everybody folds.
Iced tea arrived and I won a pot.
8 fold.
Well, Tony G got
Oh my gosh, every hand.
10,000.
Every hand, Mike, someone seems to have the aces.
Well, this time it's Patrik Antonius. Tony, this could spell big trouble for Sam Trickett. He's got the ace-king of hearts. Folks, this is a premium hand. If he doesn't double up Patrik here, I'll be very surprised. Well, here comes the first raise, or I should say the three-bet by Sam Trickett here. Everyone would make that play.
It's a complete cooler. And the way Dwan is looking right now, in his mind, the fact that Antonius has raised, the fact that Trickett has re-raised, that still doesn't mean much. He sees an opportunity here. He's about to get walloped, that's for sure.
Well, this is going to be interesting. If he happens to make a play, well, he opts to go out. No, Patrik Antonius is in such good shape. I believe he's going to double through Sam Trickett right here. I think they'll get it all in pre-flop.
I think you're right, Mike. With two very, very good aggressive players, pick up big hands. It's a complete no-brainer. And
I just don't see Trickett getting away from this hand. Nothing you can do about it. Incredible how many times aces have come up at this table. They came up a minute ago, and Matt Frankland had the ace-king of clubs, but he managed not to lose any more chips other than the bets pre-flop.
That's how tight he is. He only plays wraps.
I don't see the same thing happening to Trickett.
no, Sam's eye right now, Mike, is on the first prize. It's on the title, and he'll see this as an opportunity to get a big stack. He's got more chips right now than Patrik Antonius.
Well,
there is literally no downside for him to be going all in except for what we see as the cards.
Well, just this quick, Sam Trickett was chip leader prior to this pot. He's going to be in last place after this pot if he moves all in here, most likely. Doesn't mean he's going to lose the pot if he gets it all in there. Hearts could come up, he could make a straight, but he will be a big, big dog.
Sam is quite deep right now, but with Patrik not as deep, the all-in, very, very legitimate. Anything else, Mike, would be a real different line for Sam Trickett to take. I mean, does he have a sense? Is there some sort of alarm bells going off in his head?
Well, the only chance he has in my mind is just to call here, put him on jacks or queens, and see what comes on the flop instead of committing his stack. How good would Sam Trickett be if all he lost was another 26,000 on this hand?
It might be good this time, but I think overall, Trickett knows you have to show you can move with these hands. He's gone all in.
He's gone all in. He's going to be quickly called. And it's the cooler, folks, as we say in poker.
What I whispered was that it's
well, Sam Trickett could have made the call and seen the flop, but you can't fault him for this play. Ace-king suited, a premium hand.
I like that hand.
Just unbelievable. A minute ago, Trickett had aces, and Matt Frankland had ace-king suited.
pot here.
And he didn't win that much money. Now, good chance he's going to double up Patrik Antonius right here, right now.
What's your offer?
Well, it's come deuce, deuce, 8.
Need a couple of deuces.
Two deuces.
Two deuces would split the pot. 2 running hearts would give Trickett the win, but he is up against it now. Well, there you go. It's going to be a double up for Patrik Antonius.
Well, he wasn't putting his tournament on the line, Sam Trickett, but most of his stack, he will go from chip leader down to the short stack, and Patrik Antonius, now having doubled through, will take command of this Premier League Poker 5 final. And how this will affect the leaderboard is quite intense. There's several players now bunched on the short stacks. They're going to be under pressure, and Patrik Antonius is going to have a chance to really exert some.
This Party Poker Premier League Poker 5 final continues after the break.
Welcome back. We're still 8-handed. Patrik Antonius has grabbed this final by the scruff of the neck by doubling up through Sam Trickett. He's the only player over the $500,000 mark. And of course, Trickett, now along with Phil Laak, is on the short stack.
All right, I make a 10 again.
To raise 10,000.
Well, this time Tony picks up ace-10 suited. Raise it up, and Sam Trickett has the 2 queens right behind him. Him and Tony have had some matches here before. He's just run over Tony so far at this final table, and he's 3-bet him again.
It's time for Trickett to get back in this. He lost half his stack through no fault of his own. And if he can get some action here, he may get all that money back.
Well, Scott Seiver's got one of those hands you like to see a flop with, but the pot's been bet and it's been raised and re-raised to you. So you just have to throw it away. Well, folded back around to Tony. And now, Tony going to recheck his cards.
He doesn't like to be re-raised.
Yeah, I think he's going to make a call and look at a flop anyway. But he knows Trickett could be steaming here from losing that big pot a minute ago to Patrik Antonius. Could be making this play with anything. He's owned him so far. Ace-10, not that bad a hand.
Mike, what I think Tony has to realize, and Scott Seiver seemed to realize it pretty quick, is that even though Sam Trickett was very active when he had chips, 3-betting very light, as soon as he lost most of his stack to Antonius, his gear changed. He changed gears immediately, and he wouldn't be 3-betting light right now.
Well, Tony not buying. He's out-flopped him as it comes ace-jack 8. Another tough beat for Trickett here. At least so far in this hand. He is now perhaps dead in the water.
4-bet 20.
He's going to bet 20, and he was quickly called. So that should put the caution flag up for Trickett here. I don't see him losing any more money in this pot. Now a queen comes off. The dream card for Sam Trickett.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy, he's thinking.
Now notice Tony G has a 2-way straight draw. A 9 or a king would give him a straight. I think you have to bet here. Once you're called on the flop, I'm so shocked that Trickett wouldn't bet there. Shocked, I tell you. And a king comes on the river. Trickett is going to lose this pot to a straight.
Wow.
Just incredible how this hand seesawed back and forth.
Worst to first to worst again. What is the reason for Trickett checking that
I'm in
turn,
shock.
Mike?
Once he got called on the flop, I mean, Tony might have been slow playing an ace-jack. 3-8s in this spot. He could have won a huge pot. Now, he's going to lose this pot. Just a matter if he goes for any more dough.
Tony's checked it again. Tony has checked this on the river with the nuts. He is about to pull the big trigger. And it'll be instant. As soon as Sam sticks those chips in the pot, Tony G will go all in.
Well, this hand has just been incredible.
96.
Is that a raise?
Yeah.
I don't know if it is or not, to be perfectly honest with you. They'll have to count it out. 86,000 is a pretty big bet.
Well, Trickett now in a real mess.
So you did have ace-10.
Well, exactly right. Hit the nail right on the head. It's ace-10 exactly.
Another 20. I was hoping you didn't have ace-10, but you do.
Well, if the raise is only to 114,000, it's not a raise, is it? How much is it?
That's what everyone's gonna know is the hand. I mean,
173. Okay.
Obviously, ace-10 of spades. I mean, what else? Or diamond, whatever it was. So it wasn't spades, yeah. Ace-10 of spades. That's what I had.
Unbelievable.
What do you think? I only play the nuts. That's all I play. Everyone knows that. I don't make bluffs. I don't make good plays. I'm I play the nuts.
And how powerful will Tony G be now?
And Trickett can just keep bullying me all day, and he will never get any feedback.
Feel his power.
He can just keep pushing me, and he will keep winning. Except sometimes, if I get lucky,
Where's the rabbit?
I will lash out.
You need the rabbit, because the rabbit...
Well, he certainly got lucky in that pot. Lucky he had an ace on the flop. Lucky to make it straight on the river.
And when you don't
I think Trickett's just liable to just put it all in right here. I wouldn't even fool around with this hand. I'd just get it in if I was him. And he laid it down.
He did. He's
bang, bang, bang.
down to 18 big blinds.
Well, I am shocked he laid down an ace-10 there. I would have just shipped it in had I been him.
I had the heart to bet, don't worry about that. Played it perfect.
Meantime, Dwan has raised it up with a jack-10, and Laak makes the call with 2 sixes.
I got rid of the animals. You see what I did? Because the manager is letting me down. He has really disappointed me.
Anthony G, it's on you.
I'm in full flight now.
Since he got rid of the animals, things have been going Tony G's way, so probably better off that they're gone.
They certainly had. You know, bad energy from that panda bear. Must have been hungry.
And look at this. Tony G calling a small raise here with a king 5.
Oh, my God.
And he's checked Phil Laak get in trouble in this hand.
Oh, my.
Phil Laak has 2 sixes. Of course, Tom Dwan is the most aggressive player of the 3. And look at this. He's got jack high.
A machine.
He is going to bet. Good chance Phil Laak is not going to go anywhere with 2 sixes.
Easy. Easy. I'll give my hand a test.
You can put him under the...
I'll give my hand a test to see where it is.
Test his hand. If I had an overpair or anything, I would have...
Well, Tony G has raised already.
I just want to test the hand.
But incredibly, Phil Laak just threw 6s away like they were nothing.
I'll show you one card, Tom.
I mean, most players would have called or raised with 2 6s there in Phil Laak's.
Right.
With this
I'll
flop,
show him one.
5-5-4. Phil Laak just dumped
You
him.
can make the good fold.
He's talking it. He's feeling it.
Although, you see, Phil Hellman's too good to call.
He's
but this
teasing
guy,
it.
he might think different.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Is he going to talk Dwan into making a big
I think
mistake?
he's going to have an explosion here.
I don't think so. Tony G seems awful confident in his talk. Surely Dwan can pick up on that.
It doesn't look like he's doing an all-in, though.
I mean, he's just too confident in his manners right now.
To be honest, Riley, we just call and then we see what happens on the turn. Honestly.
Like, I don't know. Tony is very tricky. Oh, no. Oh, no. Is he going to go all in? It's going to be all over. He's got to find the escape. He did, Mike.
Nearly got him with a 5.
I nearly got him. I had the 5. I had the 5. I swear to God, I had the 5. King 5. I swear to God. You saw it, right?
Still 8 players, everyone we started with at this final table. But Sam Trickett's been wounded. He's down to just 68,000, and Phil Laak, Mike Sexton, has not had such a rosy road either.
Nope, he's gone down as well. But the guy with the biggest move is Patrik Antonius.
7-4.
Tony G also has made a big move at this table, up nearly 200,000.
8-4.
And really, all the chat, the last 15, 20 minutes or so, has been Tony G coming alive. Here's Matt Frankland.
Well, he's got ace-king suited again. I'm still mesmerized he didn't get broke the last time he had the ace-king suited, but he did not. Lost the minimum with it.
And Tom Dwan's not really deep enough. He's asking, he's not really deep enough to peel off a flop here, Mike, is he? It's not a great hand neither.
Well, Tom Dwan likes to see flops. He makes the call. He thinks he might outflop him or outplay him. He's got 2 chances to beat him.
Sure. Well, if he hits, he's home and hosed. If he doesn't, like you say, there's plans B and C.
Well, flop comes 7-7-6. Franklin's still out in front with the ace-king.
And I would start bringing plan B into effect now if I was Tom Dwan. Because he did not hit that flop.
And he bets 34,000. Now, if Dwan has the moxie to pull the trigger here, he could well win this pot. Notice he just doesn't quick muck this hand. He stares at his opponent. He actually thinks about how he can win this pot. Just fights for every pot. That's what makes Tom Dwan so tough.
He would have had in his mind when he called pre-flop what kind of board textures he was going to make a move on. And I don't know if this was one of them or not. I guess it was. This is what he had in mind. He feels like this is a good one, perhaps. Or is he just checking out Franklin's reaction?
And he reaches for chips and he looks down there and he is going to make the raise. Wow. He looked him up, he read him, he put him on the ace high, and he has pulled the trigger. This is why he is Tom Dwan, folks.
And if you're Franklin right now, you're just sitting and stewing, Mike. You're hating this. You know you could have the best hand. You also know that it could cost you all your chips to find out. That's the pressure Tom Dwan puts you under. Is Franklin willing to go to the mat here with ace high?
Can't cost him all his chips, I don't think. Because he has a few more chips than Dwan before this pot started. But he does give it up. Just an incredible play by Tom Dwan right there, folks. He just stared him down and looked through his soul, put him on an ace high, and took the pot away from him. Incredible that he could win that pot with a queen-9 after the guy 3-bet him pre-flop and bet on the flop.
Like Ricochet Rabbit, it always pulls the trigger.
Well, I showed up late, got off to like an average start, had a good 3rd heat, I think, and I was like in pretty decent shape. And then the 4th heat played out pretty bad for me, but then I got into the playoff anyway, and then won that, and now I'm in the final. Gonna try to win. I think the payout structure and stuff's pretty similar to normal tournaments. It's not that far different than a cash game. You're basically playing to win. Like occasionally there's some spots that you play a little different because it's a tournament, but it's a lot simpler than like the math in the 4th heat or whatever. There was some real goofy stuff going on there. Well, you get a decent amount of money to win, so that would be sweet. Gonna try to get it.
Between Tom Dwan, Phil Ivey, Gus Hansen, I mean, these guys are the most fun guys to watch playing poker. Win or lose, I don't care. It's fun to watch them play because they play.
Mike, they take every traditional hand, every traditional thought, everything in the playbook, and they just throw the playbook out the window.
Well, Patrik picking up a nice hand, got king, queen of hearts.
Throw me the donkey.
I wonder if I could pull my way up there. I can't. But if I can, doesn't look like. Maybe if I can pull my way to the donkey. Don't worry. I don't even.
He wants the donkey.
I'm afraid about playing hands, kids.
Now Sam Trickett also has a king, queen. He also has no chips, hardly.
66,000, Mike. That's 16 big blinds. An all-in play here would certainly be a consideration for him.
Well, I would think it would be.
The uni folder.
He'll watch over my cards and make sure that I fold everything.
And the fact is, if he doesn't go all in, then folding is probably his next considered option. I think calling here for him, even though he's in position, it's not the kind of thing he'd do, Mike.
I might just go ahead and chip it here with this hand with this chip count.
They're calling me the tightest player at the table.
He is on the button, meaning he get 6 more hands, or he's got to play a pot.
Wow, he's gone for the call. No, he's gone for a mini re-raise. Look at that.
Well, that certainly was the last option I thought possible. We bet 21,000. And look at this. The Jungleman's picked up 2 kings. What a cooler this is.
It's too nice to add stress to it.
Unbelievable here
Believe me, I understand.
that the Jungleman has picked up such a monstrous hand, and he is just going to re-raise again.
Every time it just...
Team hammer.
Oh my God.
Well, this will allow Patrik Antonius to get out of the way.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Sam Trickett said. He was always intending to stick the rest of his chips in, Mike. It was, I think he was just doing that to sort of make it look a little stronger, but he's in terrible shape.
What was you going to do? What was you going to do?
Go on.
It's easy to say
Well, this is it for Sam Trickett. I mean, he is going to be out in 8th place, and that's a miracle strike. He's going to have to make a straight probably to win this pot.
a lot of cards.
Did you have me beat every time?
I had you beat. I should have bet the turn versus you small to make you call with ace-10, but...
You had ace queen or set of queens?
I had set of queens. Wow.
Remember,
yeah, probably should have bet small.
Patrik folded a queen. Well, there's 1 queen, so it's come ace, queen, baby.
Maybe could have bet
Is
small.
that what you call an ace from space?
An ace from space.
To catch a jack and a 10 and win this pot,
A waste of an ace?
or split it, I mean, wouldn't win it. Well, there's a 10.
Now you're multi-weighing.
That's absolutely
And the
amazing.
spade came off. The dream card for Sam Trickett on the turn right there, other than the queen. He can win with a spade.
He can chop with a jack.
He gets a chop with a jack, and he wins with a queen. So, doesn't happen. 9 comes off. Sam Trickett a moment ago was the chip leader at this table. He was dominating play early on, and then wham, bam, he is out in 8th place.
He's not only been faultless at this final, he's been flawless in this Premier League. He's shown his class every step of the way, Mike, but 8th place here. 1 player out and Sam Trickett, 7 left, Mike. Have a look at the chip counts now.
Patrik Antonius well out in front, as you can see. Tony G in 2nd place, and the Jungleman in 3rd place. Phil Laak now on the short stack.
We lose Sam first off this final table. $121,000 is what you take with you. And talk to us about the story of this final for you.
I'm pretty disappointed because I felt like I was running quite good in a lot of situations, like getting a lot of big hands, and obviously none of them had seen my cards either, so they probably just thought I was playing like really, really aggressive, and which is why then I had ace king of hearts on the button, and because I'd been playing so aggressive, I decided to take that line with it, and Patrik found aces. Nothing really I could have done differently. I could have flattered, but because of the way I'd been playing in the previous hands, I decided that I was likely to get a 4-bet bluff off Patrik, so I went ahead and re-raised, and then like it's got a lot of good hands and they didn't win, so I made probably 1 small mistake where I could have bet on the turn against Tony in a mount because I kind of knew what he had. And then the river came down, completed his hand, and I bet folded. I think he had ace-10. I hope he had ace-10. I was like 99% sure he had ace-10. So if he bluffed there, I'd be very surprised. But other than that, played okay.
Well, it's been a pleasure watching you play here in the Premier League. I'm sure we'll see you here again. Thank you.
Thanks.
Sam Trickett is the first player to leave the game. 7 now remain. We'll return for more final table action after the break. Just 7. There's a hole in the bucket right now, and Sam Trickett's in the hole.
Well, believe me, all 7 of these players are just thrilled to see Sam over at the bar right now instead of sitting at this table with the chip lead like he had a moment ago. They all know how good he is, how dangerous he is, and they're glad he's out of here in 8th place.
But 7 left. They've all jumped up the pay scale a little bit. And
he's only got 3,
my mind, Mike, these next 20 or 30 hands, as the blinds go from 2-4 to 3-6, going to be vital in terms of who is going to risk going out in order to have the best chance of winning.
Well, the Jungleman makes it 10,000 to go here with the queen 10.
That was the one to choose.
Going with Tom Dwan.
6 call.
Now, I don't get that for a second, Mike. I guess Tom Dwan,
I always have my easiest matchups.
I can only imagine that he's thinking to himself, if I 3-bet, I have to go with the hand for my stack because of my image. So he's taking a much lower variance route.
And what's happened is he's got beat on the flop because he didn't 3-bet before the flop. It's come 10-4-4. Jungleman with the best hand now. Caught the only card he could catch to win this pot.
Queen would have been ouch right there.
Well, now a 9 comes off.
6 check.
Well, Dwan checking again.
Bet 18.
Well, Jungleman bets 18,000. Is Dwan good enough to get away from this hand and not lose another dime with it? Didn't re-raise before the flop. Didn't bet on the flop. And now he's going to have to catch an ace to win the pot.
I guess he's underrepresented his hand so much, Mikey. Feels like it's still good in a lot of spots. He's taking a weird approach here.
Well, very strange way he's played this hand. Now the 6 of diamonds comes off, so possible straight, possible flush. Well, Dwan is checked, and Jungleman's going to make another bet with the 2 10s.
45.
This is just one of those situations, Mike, where it goes back to the history between these guys, I think. And how often in the 10,000 or 20,000 times he's played Jungleman, would he have checked the flop and then bluffed on the turn and the river? Because that's all he can beat right now, isn't it?
Well, he is not going to be pleased with the way he played this hand, even if he folds here and doesn't lose any more money with it. But if he makes this call, he's really going to be steaming.
Big percentage of his stack, really. 45K.
Well, he makes the good laydown. Very surprised he wouldn't re-raise pre-flop with the ace-queen of spade there, though.
I always get the feeling time and time again when Jungleman and Tom Dwan are in a pot together, when they look at each other, they don't see their faces. They just see a computer screen on the other's head.
There's Vanessa Selps come to watch the final table. She played great in her last heat, but unfortunately just missed out on a place in the playoffs when she was beaten by the Jungleman.
Tom Dwan just looks like the class of the table right now, doesn't he, Jesse?
You know, he definitely plays his own way, Mike. A couple of moves haven't worked, but he has just, he's dominated this game. Just seems to know exactly where he's at and everybody else is all the time.
Well, we know Patrik Antonius has got the chip lead, but he got there with 2 aces when he got it all in pre-flop.
Here comes Seiver. This is good enough. Now, does he want to 3-bet it?
I think he does.
Yes, 26.
He is going to 3-bet it. First time he's done that today. Of course, it's only the 3rd hand he's played. Queens, jacks, and 10s.
You know, talking to Scott Seiver just before this final table started, Mike, he was loudly proclaiming that he had the best seat on the final. I'm starting to think it might have been a little bluff because he hasn't looked like someone who's been finding great spots to get his chips in. Of course, this is one. And now, is Antonius considering, he's certainly got the chips to do it. We know he's capable. Does he think the dynamics are set up for some kind of 4-bet? Obviously, in his mind, if Scott Seiver would be doing this with a lot of hands, he can push them both out.
Well, Scott Seiver has not made any moves at all at this final table. I don't know why all of a sudden you'd think he'd be making one here. I am shocked if Patrik gets involved in this pot.
Ace-8, obviously no hand to the raise and re-raise, but that's not the intention here.
Well, I mean, you could understand it against a guy like Dwan, but Seiver has not made one move without a big hand so far.
Ladies and gentlemen, Patrik Antonius.
He's pulled the trigger here, Antonius. And the question is Seiver going to go with this? Jack's a strong hand, but to a real hand that would make the cold 4-bet, it's nothing.
Well, you're right about it. I mean, just because Seiver knows his image is tight as a rock at this final table, yet the guy still comes over the top of him for a 4-bet. You are afraid he's got kings or queens in this spot.
You know, how often is this a bluff by Antonius? The only other hands are kings, aces, ace, king. That might be it.
Seiver doesn't beat anything except the bluff. I mean, this is his Premier League pretty much, Mike. The same kind of situation that Antonius faced with the 2-10s against Dwan, but only about the third hand. And he's gone for a call.
Well, he's made the call.
This is probably the most gutsy and dangerous decision he could have taken right now, Mike.
I mean, I don't see a flop that's not going to be scary. If it comes 10-9 deuce, for example, he'd be afraid he had 3 10s or 3 9s.
You can only call here if you've got a heart of stone if you're Scott Seiver, because he's saying to himself, well, if Antonius is bluffing, I don't want to shut him out. I want to give him the chance to give me the rest of his stack.
Well, in my mind, he got about the best flop he could get without a jack in it.
I don't know how much he has.
Now we know the continuation bet is going to come from Patrik. And now you're going to have the tough decision once again if you're Seiver.
You think now that Antonius has come this far, he's got the straight draw, he may as well just stick it in and see what Seiver does?
Well, if you're going to bet 100,000 and then call the raise with the gut shot draw on the ace, then I think you move all in, and that's
what he's
exactly
done.
what he did. And this is a tough decision for Scott Seiver. We can see he's got the best hand, but if you're sitting there at that table, you're scared to death the guy's got 2 queens or 2 kings. Well, the only track record Seiver's got to go by at this table was...
Wow, he's laid it down.
Well, he took a long time. He had 2 aces before when he made the same play a minute ago against Sam Trickett. He busted him out of there. Scott Seiver didn't want to go out the same way. Now that is playing the game, folks, right there. Patrik Antonius earning that pot.
Have a look at how the leaderboard stands now. Antonius has been all class, Mike. Jungleman and Tony G, of course, in the top 2. But look at the stats. Scott Seiver and Phil Laak so tight on the V-chip percentage.
Well, it's been a fascinating final table so far, no doubt about it. Could have been more fascinating, perhaps, had Vanessa Selps made this final table. She just stopped in the booth right here. Vanessa, I know you're sad not to be on this final table, but give me a little thought process about how you think is going to win it.
Figuring it out now.
Well, you know, I think right now Patrik Antonius is playing well, and he's in prime position to really take it down. I think you're right about what you were saying, where he's just sat there and really waited for the spots where the money is big, you know, and he's taking his tight image and really capitalizing on those great spots. So if he can keep doing that, I see him maybe being the favorite to take it down right now.
Seat number 2, raise.
Blinds 3 and 6,000. This is where the nitty gets gritty.
Well, Matt Frankland pretty patient the first couple levels. Going to raise it here with 2 6s, and Tony G right behind him picks up 2 10s.
Now he could have splashed the pot there with a sizable raise. He's chosen just to call in position against Frankland. And we'll see what develops because of that later on.
I'm surprised at that, because that entices the blinds to come into the pot. They've got some money in there.
Phil Laak's gone for the 3-bet, and it's a big one. Yeah, I don't think Tony G's getting away from it. The quick AI, and now Phil Laak will have to have a count. He didn't expect that, Mike. He did not expect that.
He thought he was going to win this pot.
And he's going to get, I think he may get a little flustered here. He may not have looked at his chip stack. He's put an awkward amount in, and he certainly won't be happy about calling here. As it turns out, Tony G's got like the one hand that he's flipping against.
Well,
but
he's played so tight at this final table, he thought a big raise would just win the pot automatically for him. He got snap called all in by Tony G right there, and all of a sudden that ace-jack has shrunk up. He now realizes Tony G could be slow playing a giant hand like 2 kings. The question is he pot committed? Anytime you have an ace in your hand, unless you're up against 2 aces, the worst you're going to be is 2-to-1 dog to win the pot. Obviously, Phil Laak knows that. So even if he puts his opponent on kings, is he getting the right price to make the call? And does he want to jeopardize his tournament right here and go out in 7th place?
He's got 150,000 back. It's enough. I do think he's gonna find a fold here, Mike. But on the other hand, the opening bet was only 12.
Call a friend or something.
You know, he may have just made a slightly too big a re-raise there.
I use that balance. Hold on in this.
No, you're ahead. There's no doubt. Just do I want to put it in? Be the next guy out.
If he could see Tony's cards, he'd call in a hurry, wouldn't he?
Oh, it'd be a snap call if he could see. If he thought he was in a race, he'd be in there in 1 second. He's thinking about calling as a 2-to-1 underdog.
But let's be honest. I mean, you know, Phil has to make an assumption about how many hands Tony G would do this with. I think 10s are just about the very worst.
I would agree with you completely. And I think Phil Laak is going to come to that conclusion and throw this hand away. He's still got enough chips to play with. It's not like he's sitting on empty.
I mean, I'm
still got 150,000.
I'm probably get lamb blasted that I'm slow rolling, but I just want to survive, and this is
lamb blasted for slow rolling.
But I might just be 50-50.
He wants.
Well, he said I might be 50-50.
250.
Listen,
wow.
Phil Laak has the guts. Wow, he's done it. He's going to be happy when he finds this out.
Great shit.
I thought for sure he was going to throw that hand away. I am surprised he came to that conclusion. He said, I might be 50-50. That means you put your opponent on 10s or 9s exactly, and that's exactly what he did.
And you know what, Mike? That could be the call that wins Phil Laak the Premier League if he folds there.
Well, he's getting himself a chance to get some chips, Jesse. You're right about that. He gambled here. Let's see if it pays off for him. And I still think Tony G should have 3-bet to start with. That would have shut Phil Laak out of this pot. Then he'd been playing 2 10s against 2 6s. But as it is, let's see what happens. Tony G still a slight favorite to win the pot, so you see those stats.
You're going to hear somebody scream when this pot is over.
Jack right on the flop. It's come king, jack, 8, all clubs. Tony G does have a flush draw. So Tony G would win it with a flush. But right now, Phil Laak is out in front. Deuce of hearts on the turn.
That's a big card for Laak.
Hold on, don't flip it.
He's got to dodge a club or a 10.
I just want to be the first one to know so I can just dodge.
And I'll tell you what, someone's going to bang the table when this is over, and it might be Tony G in frustration. The Panda might get us a broken neck.
Tony needs that club or 10 to win the pot. Doesn't happen. 3 of diamonds comes off.
I'm still in it.
Phil Laak is going to take the backpack back off and sit back down.
I'll tell you one thing, boys.
He is not something to learn from.
After this break, I'm coming back.
Well,
I'm putting on my Joker t-shirt.
Incredibly, I think he overbet the pot and then got pot committed is what happened to Phil Laak right there.
I think so.
So he made a mistake and it paid off well for him. I think Tony G made a mistake by not 3-betting to start with. I believe Phil might have thrown the ace-jack away had he done that. As it was, Phil Laak is going to more than double up here. And Tony G back in dismay.
He's now lost over 200K, Tony G. He can't believe it.
The final table lineup's unbelievable. It's the best players, the biggest names. It's going to be action-packed final table. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for everyone, and the winner will obviously have the most fun. I have to play my best game. I have to wait for some mistakes, perhaps, but all I can do is just play my game and see what happens, and the results will speak for themselves. To win the Premier League would be extremely important for me, extremely rewarding as well for all the things I've done in the Premier League. I've played every event. I think this is the 3rd final table out of 5, so it's a pretty good record in it, and want to continue it and see if I can win it. The best players in the final, and we'll see who's the best of the best.
That's why I never do anything with
In the old days of TV poker, there was a celebrity poker show, and we had a famous ventriloquist on. He brought the dummy to the table, and upon getting knocked out, he was seen in the parking lot kicking the dummy and beating the dummy. I'll tell you something, I don't envy the Panda's fate.
Boy,
I do not envy the Panda's fate.
Well, the Panda should have been screaming in his ear. You got to raise before that. 3-bet it yourself, you dummy. Well, really tough luck for Tony G because two other players had folded an ace in that pot. So the outs, as we say, for Phil Laak were pretty thin there.
Are you going to be the one to tell him that, Mike? I don't think so. Maybe. You might be the only one who can get away with it. Antonius and Dwan squaring off here. And this is, Dwan's raised this under the gun, and Antonius has flatted from the small blind.
Wants to see flops. With the suited connectors.
6 bet 29.
Well, most of the time, Mike, you just see Antonius calling here. I mean, is there anything more in it than that? See what happens on the turn.
Well, he's flopped second pair here. You know Dwan is going to continue bet with anything that he has. Doesn't have to be 2 10s.
And Patrik wants a count of Tom's chips before he makes a plan. The answer is Patrik has about 600,000 back, while Tom only has 250.
Well, if you're going to play the 10s, how do you play them? That's the question. Do you raise right here? Do you just call? And now you're frozen on the next street as well? What do you do with 2 10s here?
Boy, they've got a real stare for each other, don't they?
They really do, but Dwan stares down every player on every bet. And he then looks at the other players too.
We've known how good Dwan has been playing this whole, and Antonius just folds it. He just folds it. He looked into the future and just decided that he did not want to take on the pressure of Tom Dwan.
And I believe he just did not want to give Dwan more chips. I would say Patrik would put Dwan, the least guy he would want to play heads up with, you know, for this title. So he didn't want to give him more chips. He's just going to wait for a better spot to get his chips in the pot. If he calls there, what's he going to do on the turn? What's he going to do on the river? You could jeopardize a lot of chips with that hand. He had not very much invested. Just get away from it and move on to the next hand.
He's such a capable player, Patrik Antonius, and yet I think in this Premier League he's been slightly underrated up to this point. It's almost like players have overlooked him. He's such he's a quiet guy sometimes. He wasn't being flash with his strategy, but
well, Phil Laak has limped in under the gun. First time we've seen that play today by anybody.
That should get punished in this lineup, shouldn't it? You should probably get just a little electric shock just for doing that.
Well, he's an old school guy, and there's an old school theory. Beware of the limper under the gun.
Tom's having a little smile.
Let's come King, Jack, Jack. The Jungleman out in front right now with kings up.
And now in Tom Dwan's mind, if he puts Phil Laak on the exact hand he has, which is some kind of small pair, which would be very common, this is a good spot for him to bluff, isn't it, Mike?
Well, I don't think it's going to be a good spot because I think Jungleman's going to look him up, but
14.
You just have to admire Tom Dwan.
Check it out.
Wow.
Dwan bled out. Laak raised with only the 2 deuces, and it was muck from both.
Really?
He's shown a little flair, Mike.
That donkey is working, folks. I'll tell you that.
Talk tight, stack tight, play loose. That's the beauty of Laak.
Well, actually ran Jungleman off the hand. He had the best hand with kings up.
1 fold, 2 fold.
Well, Tony with the 2-8's going to raise it up. Makes it 14,000 to go.
6 folds.
Well, Phil Laak got an interesting hand.
That seems like you got me.
Got the queen jack of clubs. But he's going to make the call out of the small blind.
Now, is this a spot for Scott Seiver? He's got a suited ace, Mike.
He's just going to call. Does not try the squeeze play with this hand. Just makes the call. Wants to see a flop with it.
Don't want to squeeze play with this crowd. Not against G and Laak. Phil's calling it the war of the nits.
Well, the flop comes 7-4-3. Scott Seiver has a two-way straight draw.
He's going to have to do something here, Mike.
But Tony G has the best hand with the 2-8s. Good flop for Tony. He's got the overpair here.
Seiver's actually done quite well there. I believe if he had started pushing, Tony G would have pushed back.
Well, a 9 comes off.
Check.
Scott has checked. Tony's got to believe he's got the best hand here.
45.
He's going to bet 45,000.
Still feels like a vulnerable bet. Wow. Seiver just lays it down like nothing.
Well, I don't blame him for laying that down. In a two-way straight draw, but not happy if a diamond comes up there, but I think he saved money.
And Tony G happy to take it down, add to his stack. Patrik and Jungleman. Patrik Antonius nearly double what he started with. And we've already lost one player off this final table in the guise of Sam Trickett. He's probably already doubled up his stack in the WPT Vienna, Mike. Can't see it would take Trickett more than an hour.
6 raise 14. 7.
Well, Dwan going to make it 14,000.
I think this is what they call the getaway pots. You know, the guys who get really busy just before there's going to be a break.
35.
And that may be the dynamics that Seiver's found here, Mike.
Well, Dwan raising with the 2 9s, getting re-raised by Seiver here with the ace-7. I think Dwan just going to set him in here. Now Seiver's been playing so tight all day. And all of a sudden he's making a move here with an ace-7 offsuit. He's picking the wrong guy for this move to work.
I agree, Mike. I think his timing, his idea might be good, but his timing is off. Dwan has a way better hand than he needs to have right here to make the opening raise. Yeah. And Seiver's about to find out, isn't he?
I think so. Just tough luck for Seiver here in my mind, and that Dwan finally does have at least a reasonable hand. Not a superstar hand against a guy that hadn't played hardly any pots all day, though.
It's true. Seiver starting this on 150,000, and
he just calls.
That's brave, Mike. And very unorthodox with Seiver only having 120,000 left, isn't it?
He's going to give Seiver a chance to win the pot,
and that's
probably what's going to happen. By not re-raising there, Dwan has essentially shipped this pot over to Seiver. So you're saying he raised at the wrong time. It looks to me like he raised at the right time.
No, it's all going to work out now, isn't it? It's all going to work perfect.
Well, 25,000 to bet here. 1/3 the size of the pot.
What was the idea of Tom Dwan calling pre-flop?
What's the idea of him calling now? You put your opponent on an overpair or an ace, you're dead no matter what happens. I'm just wowed by the way this hand's being played. Now a 3 comes off. I think by calling there, though, Scott Seiver will be frozen on the next bet. I don't see him betting anymore. Unless he puts Dwan on some kind of straight draw or flush draw. And obviously he must think his 2 aces are the best hand if he's reaching for chips. And he is.
Well, these guys have got me tongue-tied and buffalo-headed, Mike. I mean, I don't even know which way, why. And Dwan's managed to find a fold.
Well, that hand was played very strangely to me. Just shocked that Dwan would just call pre-flop and then just give up the hand. But he didn't give it up. He called when the ace hit. That's even more shocking.
Blinds will go to 5 and 10,000. Scott Seiver did a little good work at the end to pull himself up by his bootstraps, but he's still short stacked. The bottom 3 stacks will all be in trouble when the blinds go up. And for Patrik Antonius, Daniel Cates, and Phil Laak, it's singing pretty.
Only one of our remaining players will take home the grand prize of $500,000 and this prestigious title. Action continues after the break. with Sam Trickett's exit. 7 remain at the table, and getting action back underway are your commentators Jessie May and Mike Sexton.
It only gets better from here, Mike. Patrik Antonius has been nothing short of the class that we knew he had within him. And is he going to power through from this point forward?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Patrik Antonius in great shape right now as chip leader, but 3 guys at the bottom with about the same amount of chips. Scott Seiver, Tom Dwan, and Matt Frankland. And one of these guys, or both of them, or all 3 of them, are going to have to make something happen here because they're on the short stack right now.
8 raise, 20,000. 1 fold.
And for Scott Seiver, he's down to just over 20 big blinds. So any pot he plays is critical right now. And just winning the blinds right now is very beneficial. I don't think Dwan's going to allow him to win without a little bit of a fight. Not with this hand.
No, it's the kind of hand Dwan likes to see flops with. He's going to make the call here. Got the 10-8 of clubs versus the 2 6s of Scott Seiver.
I fear for Seiver here.
Now flop comes king, queen, 4. I predict whoever bets at this pot is going to win this pot. He's going to lead out and bet.
Wow, that's strong, Mike.
Now that is strong to lead out into a pre-flop raiser. It's like Dwan just sees through people. He sees Seiver sitting there like a statue. And it just looked like he was begging him to check there, but look at this.
I mean, Seiver doesn't have enough chips to make this call, but he does. It's like he knows he's ahead, Mike, or at least he could be still ahead.
Well, he's just not going to put Dwan on a king or possibly a queen there because he would have checked. He's not going to lead out and bet. At least that's the thinking of Scott Seiver, and so far it's correct. Now let's see what's going to happen on the turn. Dwan does have an open-end straight draw, but after getting called on the flop, he's got to be a little nervous.
Boy, this pot is so critical for both players, Mike. Neither one of them can afford to lose more chips, and the money in the middle could be the difference between having a stack for the future and blinding yourself out.
Well, it's gone check, check. On the turn as the jack comes off and the ace comes off, the dream card for Tom Dwan right there. As he makes the ace high straight the best hand possible. Unfortunately for Dwan, I don't see any way he can make money on this pot. Obviously, he would have to check and allow Seiver to bluff at the pot. It's the only possible way he can make money. But Seiver's liable to check it down on the short stack, so if he gets chips out of this, I'll be surprised.
Geez, it does seem very unlikely, but I wonder if Seiver would feel forced to bluff at this pot if Dwan gives him the option. He's going for the value bet, though, Mike.
Well, he's hoping Seiver has something like aces up here. That's what he's hoping for, where he'd get paid off if he bet. Because Seiver's on a short stack, he just figures to check it down on the river unless he's got a 10 in his hand. Well, Dwan does make a small bet at the pot and takes it down. Seiver had the right idea, had the best hand when he called him on the flop, got unlucky, and the Dwan hit runner to make the straight.
How bad do you run that run out? Jeez.
He did make a great call originally, but for Tom Dwan, back to 287, it's just over where he started, and it's not like he's been sitting and doing not much.
You were going to look much cooler winning it without getting there.
You can't keep a trick past the kid. He's just paying attention to all the angles, you know?
Well, not many players change clothes on the break. Phil Laak did it, though. He said he's got the Batman suit on. What's he got on now, Jesse?
He had Plastic Man, now he's got Batman, yeah.
Pocket eights. You have to have standards when you're going to play tight.
Man does have to have standards.
If an old school nit like me has to survive, trust me, you got to have a little bit snug here and there on your sickness, you know, to keep it in check.
Phil Laak loves propagating the idea of how tight he is. He just wants to keep it up and up and up. And we've seen a couple times Mike Antonius getting very aggressive from the big blind when Tom Dwan opens. He's just been after Dwan all day. This is not much of a hand, though.
This is no hand at all. Dwan staring him down over there. These two guys like to look at each other. I'll tell you, Patrik Antonius is just like a robot sitting there, isn't he?
He really is.
It's just unbelievable. He never says a word at the table. He never cracks a smile. He's just very intense at every moment. And when he pulls the trigger, it seems to work every time, even when he doesn't have a hand in stealing the pot like he did against Seiver a minute ago.
Mike, all the other players on the break, they went to the bar, grab a soda or a cup of coffee. Patrik Antonius went next door to the gas station, topped himself up with oil.
I actually saw him eating rice on the break. And look at this. He is going to raise with a 10-4 offsuit, folks. The last time it was raised and re-raised in front of him, and he put a 4-bet in with an ace-8 offsuit against the guy playing the tightest all day long and ended up winning that pot.
And don't be wrong. I mean, Tom Dwan's under pressure here, Mike. The king-queen, obviously a fairly strong hand, but Dwan only started with 30 big blinds. Now that Antonius has re-raised him, you know, it could be a shove or fold scenario, and Tom Dwan laid it down.
Well, a king-queen's not the kind of hand you want to play in that situation. You could be dominated. Your opponent could have ace-king or ace-queen, and then you're dead meat. Patrik has not played very many hands at this final table. His perception to the other players is that he's tight. Now on the break, they all looked it up and saw that he stole the pot off of Scott Seiver, but still, as you saw, Dwan just did not want to get involved with the chip leader with the king-queen in that spot. But what timing does this Patrik Antonius have? It's like he just looks through guys when he can take pots away from them.
Mike, he's starting to be at that level now where he's actually looked at by some of the other players as a little bit of an old guard, old school player. But I'll tell you what, he has, he's missing nothing. He's missing nothing against the younger players and still can take them on at every turn.
Well, he raises here with the ace-5. Jungleman calls him with the 2-8s.
And this is a fun.
Now, Tom Dwan's only got 27 big blinds. All in here, while a bit rash, is certainly part of the playbook, Mike. It's an option.
Well, it is an option. The other option is only cost him $12,000 to make the call here because he's in the blind. And in my mind, that's the better option. Either flop a deuce or you don't. You don't jeopardize any more chips. By moving in, you jeopardize your tournament life.
It's exactly what he's done. Two deuces have too much value to try and flop a set in your mind.
I think it's simple. You just flop the set or you don't put another penny in the pot. Flop comes 10, 6, 4. Well, it's gone check, check over to Patrik.
One bet, 30,000.
Now he only has the ace high. He has bet 30,000. Jungleman going to be put to the test here.
Holding it for you. He ate all your prizes.
Wow. Well, Jungleman makes the call here.
So you're getting replacement price. He never would that.
He certainly did, but
It's actually better for
I mean, there's.
Well,
I believe Patrik will shut down now.
I mean, pretty standard when you haven't eaten the food.
I think he's going to put Jungleman on a pair, either 10s, maybe made 3 6s here, or has a pair in his hand. I just don't see him losing any more chips to this particular guy. Jungleman has not made one move at a pot yet at this final table. Now a 6 comes off. Now, believe it or not, it's possibly a card that could get Patrik in trouble. If, for example, he puts Jungleman on something like 7, 8 of diamonds, where he had a two-way straight draw where he could call on the flop, but goes check, check. Jungleman's just going to check it down with 2 8s and take down the pot. I think Jungleman should have got a value bet in there, perhaps, on the river, but He's a very cautious player in my mind. So
He's done things his way and is now the chip leader. Looking at the leaderboard, Jungleman now has over 600K, but Antonius isn't far behind with just under 600,000. It's tight at the top and tight at the bottom. Plenty more drama is guaranteed at this final table.
This Party Poker Premier League 5 final continues next time as the players continue to fight for the $500,000 top prize and a championship title.
It's for real money. It's really serious stuff. Just the nuts.
I like Patrick's watch. It's the most expensive watch I've ever seen.
I'd love to fold. Love to. Give anything to fold.
You mind I go to the toilet while you think about it? I know it's going to be a long decision.
Check. They're going to tilt me. I'm dropping the hammer.